Germany.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Greytown Council meeting of July 16th, 2024. I'm Councilor Chapel. I'm actually filling in for Chair McGuire, who is excused this evening. This meeting will be held in person and online, per usual, with the link provided in the agenda header on our website. I'm going to begin with roll call. Councilor Gass.
Present.
Councilor Johnson.
Present.
Councilor Chapel, and hopefully Councilor Height will be joining us shortly. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Looking for a motion for the June 18th, approval of the June 18th, 2024 regular town council meeting minutes.
So moved?
Second.
Okay. Did anyone have any edits or comments?
I didn't.
No?
I would just comment that, like, the committee assignments, it said, there was a motion to approve it, but the actual assignments weren't included in the minutes, and, maybe that would be a good thing. And I'm not 100% sure if I'm on the Cable Advisory TV Committee still, or if Councilor Gass is.
I had sent out the revised committee assignments to everyone to see if there was any issues with them, but I can recirculate those.
Okay, well, I can find the email too, so, okay.
Any other comments? No, I have none. So I will go to vote. Anne?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
And I'm also yes. Okay, next up is a report from the town manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to mention that, as I did mention to councilors in advance of the meeting, we did do some reorganization to the meeting agenda to have it flow more appropriately with Robert's Rules of Order. And so I worked with Chair McGuire and Vice Chair Chappell to work through that with the excellent help of our town clerk, Britt Barton, and we were able to get this organized in a manner that flows a little bit better.
Point of
And-
order?
Sure.
Did we skip over? Oh, I see, it's the whole report from the town manager there, okay, because Annie Graham's going to give the
Yes.
update later.
So I just wanted to point that out for those watching at home, and again, for the counselors, if there is any feedback on the flow, we're open to tweaks, so be happy to have those shared. So the first item that we have listed under the town manager's report, I wanted to invite Representative Annie Graham to the podium to provide a legislative update. She had requested to join us a number of months ago, and we scheduled it in a time that worked best for her and our schedule. So we're happy to have her here, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Manager Foley. Good evening. It's nice to see you all. I actually stayed in my house all day today, trying to be really cool, because previous days I've been knocking on doors and meeting all my constituents, your constituents. So I chose to take when it hits like 90, I'm like, okay, uncle, I'm not gonna do that. I just passed out, and I think you maybe need one more from Matthew, my newsletter that was mailed to many of you. I hope you've seen it. And I may touch on that a little bit, but I really wanted to come and say hello, tell you a little bit about what we did this last session, and really engage you all as to what you need, what's happening in your community that I, as a state legislator, can help you with. So with that, I did send a letter to you all, and you may have that in your packet. But I will say that I'm really pleased with the work we did this last session. We worked really hard to do a lot of really good things. And I think the main things that I want to focus on are the things you guys care about. One is maintaining revenue sharing at 5%, and then continuing to fund education at 55%. Those are two major issues that I know you all deal with. And I know that there's been a lot of discussion, and in fact, I just got a letter from the Gray Water District about concerns regarding ADUs and housing and so on, is that I hope to talk a little more with you all about, because I want to help your community with any of the changes that we have suggested to you as the legislature in relation to housing. So with that, I also want to just look at my newsletter, and we really worked hard on issues, and I serve on the Health and Human Services Committee, so it's a place that I feel really good about the work that we did, particularly in the wake of the Lewiston tragedies. Health and Human Services Committee worked really hard on supporting mental health and behavioral health services, helping people who are in crisis, and we passed that bill unanimously out of committee, and I think unanimously on the floor. That was something I really cared about. I also am very involved. Some of you may know I'm a retired pediatric nurse practitioner, and my focus is often on kids, particularly around behavioral health, and that's a place that we still have a lot of work to do, as you've seen in articles in the paper about kids living in the ER for months who really have major needs. My hope is that I will return to Augusta and be able to continue to work on those issues. We worked a lot on environmental issues, particularly around PFAS and how we control PFAS, and trying to stop that getting into our environment and getting into our water supplies and so on. we really worked hard on improving our economy. One bill that unfortunately didn't pass was a bipartisan bill to look at changing our tax structure so that the middle income isn't hit so hard and that we give them a bit of a break. It did pass, but it was vetoed, and we were unable to turn it around. Again, I'm all about making sure people can afford their health care. And again, the biggest thing that I focused on was on helping everyone, particularly around mental health. And again, in relation to the Lewiston tragedies, we really see that also coming out of the pandemic. We see a lot more needs. And then, as I said, housing. I know we have said to all the communities, let's build some affordable housing. And I know you all are looking at some of those things, and if they're, and I think one of the concerns I do have about what we do in Augusta is we say, hey, why don't you do this? And then the towns are like, okay, how? How can you help us? How can we do it? So know that I'm here for you if there are questions as to how we can figure it out. I think one of the things that I've heard a bit knocking on doors is, and you guys know this so well, is roads, roads, and roads. Probably one of the biggest concerns people have. And I know you've been working really hard on changing the town center, and the Maine DOT has been working really hard with you, and I've hoped I've been able to help you all with that. And that I know that continues, and I know the community, how fast people are going, shunning the turnpike, all those issues are something that I know you guys really care about and you're working really hard on, and I applaud your efforts, because I've gotten to know you all for many years, and it's been a slow, hard slog. And so I applaud your efforts and keep it going, and know that if there's anything I can do to help, I will do that. So I want to stop there because I want you all to let me know what you are seeing. I know that North Yarmouth had some real concerns around property taxes, as most communities are, and revenue sharing and so on. So I don't know if any of you have any questions at all, or things you want to bring up, or that you want me to work on.
Anyone have any questions? Anne?
One of the things we've talked about for several years now is solar arrays, and my understanding is that the way the state handles this is community. I'm talking about sort of community solar arrays that are maybe privately developed, and that the state has some incentive to communities, agrees that the developer of the solar array only has to pay half the property taxes that would be incurred normally by a project like that. And the state makes up, I guess I'm not sure the state reimburses us for the other half. I think we're just out that other half. And so one of the things that we've been interested in, we've approved two different, one municipal and two community solar arrays that are, and these aren't, on individual houses, just to be clear. These are arrays that are like the one on the bypass.
Right.
And so I just am curious what the governor's office, the GOPIF office is sort of thinking about that these days, and if there's any movement toward allowing municipalities to apply full taxes to those.
Great, thank you for that.
Because I'll just add that we're reluctant, or have been reluctant, to approve any more arrays because it's kind of a money loser for us. And as much as we support, doing things to combat climate change, it just with the concerns about property taxes and stuff, it's a little hard to go that route. And we have other economic development needs as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning it. That was forefront of my mind, for sure. Did anyone else have any questions?
I think the only thing I'd have to say is that, being in this community for a while, we have an older generation, and, property taxes, continually to grow. I mean, we're gonna go up with this new school budget passing. We've got a $60 million potential increase over the next few years, if that passes as well. And it really hits our older community hard. And, has there been talk, or is there an opportunity for the state to help somehow? Whether it's capping it, because obviously the towns can't afford to do that. So anything to help the, 65-plus community would certainly be appreciated.
Thanks, I appreciate that, Michael. There are two pretty significant tax relief proposals that we passed. One is that individuals can apply for property tax relief, those individuals who are over 65. And that's done all through when they file their state income tax. There's another way that individuals can actually pay no tax at all, and that, what it is they pay no tax until then the property is then sold, or, individual turns it over, and that's when the property taxes are paid, once the home is sold. So those are the two that come to the top of my mind. I don't know, I'm not a tax expert, but I think that what I would suggest to anybody over age 65 is to, if they have any questions about that, they can reach out to me and I can connect them to the state government. But pretty much it's through the Revenue Bureau that all that happens. But again, the first one that I mentioned is it tries to make it as easy as possible for people so that they save on their property taxes, because you're absolutely right. We are an aging population, and it's really hard with rising property taxes, and I understand, and it creates a real rift sometimes in our community, so.
I guess I'd like to weigh in on that question. I guess regarding ways of helping people with property tax, I think that it being means tested is a much better system than age tested. I know from my experience, I'm over 60, and I'm in a much better financial situation than I was when I had 2 kids at home. I guess that's my input. I much prefer something like the old circuit breaker program, which was means tested. People that were having trouble making their tax bills got help because of how much money they made, not because of their age. So I prefer that approach myself.
I appreciate that, Matthew, and my hope is that I can return to Augusta and work on something like that. I mean, I think the bill that I did mention about, I was so pleased it was bipartisan. It was put forward by a colleague on the other side of the aisle. It was a bipartisan bill. The only reason it was vetoed was because the administration felt that it didn't go through the proper procedures. But the message was clear that we need to help those people in the middle, those people who are just trying to make it, those people who are trying to not swing down. I think all the time when I talk about these issues are my 30-something-year-old sons who can't begin to imagine that they can afford a home right now. And so how do we figure out a way to help the middle? I think we do a pretty good job helping those people who really need a lot of help. But I think that those individuals who are just trying to make it to buy their gas, buy their groceries, heat their homes, are struggling. I think when you talk about means testing, like, we have to factor in how many kids you have at home. Are you looking, your kid's gonna have to be going to college, all those things. So I welcome any input so that, again, if I return to Augusta, I'm able to put a bill in. So I'd be happy to work on that.
Yeah, like I say, I would highly suggest looking at the old circuit breaker program,
Yeah.
which was administratively well put together
Yeah.
and easy to administer, and allowing towns to do something like that, I think would be also good.
Excellent, yeah. I will say one of the things that my background is, as I served in the legislature from 2010 to 2014, and I served on the state and local government. And what I brought to that was that I was on the Board of Selectmen, or the Select Board, in North Yarmouth for several years. And one of the things that I think many of my colleagues don't think about what we do, how it translates down to the municipalities and how we get things done. you are where the rubber meets the road. This is where your neighbor may disagree with you on anything, on budgets, on school budgets, the whole thing. So I think that I agree with you, Matt, that it shouldn't just be, I think the state can say, hey, this is a great idea, but we can give municipalities more of an opportunity. I know that in North Yarmouth, and you may too, and I apologize if I didn't know this, that we are giving seniors more of a break as well, on top of what the state's doing, so.
So I was just curious if you had any updates on the regional advocacy that's been going on around the general assistance program and how the state might better help with that, particularly for communities that are overburdened rather,
Yeah.
some of us are, sharing in that burden more than others. So just curious if there's any updates on that regionalization effort.
Thank you for that. Unfortunately, we passed a bill, and I say unfortunately, we passed a bill through Health and Human Services Committee to reimburse municipalities at 90% of revenue sharing around GA, I'm sorry. And so the reason I say unfortunately is it didn't go through at the end. It was on the appropriations table, and there are multiple things that we did not get done because of that. The will is there, and I anticipate that when we go back, it will be there again. We fully recognize that all municipalities are struggling with GA. We also, within the Health and Human Services Committee, are really trying to help municipalities work to get this done. The burden is on you. Again, it's where the rubber meets the road. So there is work on how we can do it better, so that municipalities aren't maybe even regionalizing some of their general assistance work. And so stay tuned. I think the will is there, and I'm quite confident you will see something in the next legislative session.
Okay, good to know, thank you. Anyone else have comments or questions? Oh, Ann?
I probably have half a dozen, but I'll save them for, perhaps we can,
Coffee.
yes, have a coffee sometimes. But I do want, I serve as liaison to the Open Space Committee, and we've been working with the planning department here and developers on open space subdivisions. And it seems to me that, I think we've made some real headway, and I'm excited about some of the work that we've done. But one of the things we've run into is that the definition of subdivision at the state level, subdivision definitions are dictated by the state, is my understanding. I mean, towns are, can elaborate on that, of course, but, and I believe we have, but I wonder if there's ways to create more incentives or to support towns in creating incentives for developers to set aside more land as open space. I'm especially thinking about things like trail corridors or potential trail corridors and connectivity in town. And that might be something I'd be interested in following up with you about a little bit more. I don't have a specific example right now, but I mean, it seems like there's a very small number of units that triggers the subdivision requirement. And I'm just speaking for myself at this point, I'm not trying to speak for the council or the committee, but it seems like that's been an issue in dealing with some developers, like they shy away from doing a subdivision because it comes with more burdensome requirements.
I think that it sounds pretty complex, and I think one of the things that you all have to your advantage is that your Senator Teresa Peirce was Senate Chair of the Housing Committee. And the Housing Committee did a lot of really awesome work, but also, again, saying to communities, here you go do all your affordable housing and figure out where to do it and so on. And so I think that, Senator Peirce would have a good idea, a better idea than me about around all that, and a good discussion around it, because I think communities are saying, whoa, you want us to do what? And how are we gonna do this? And how do we do it well?
Yeah.
So I think I would encourage you that. And in relation to trails, I want to applaud you all on the good work that you've done with trails and the Royal River Conservation and so on. One of the things that I desperately hope is that we will create a Casco Bay rail trail, which will come along, you guys. I really, it would be more going from Portland all the way through Falmouth, Cumberland, North Yarmouth, New Gloucester, into Auburn, into Lewiston. Right now, there's, where I live, I go across, we have a road that has about 10 houses on it, and there's been a rail sitting there for 30 years, unused. It had the Sunday River ski train when we first moved there. But it's unused, you can't really walk on it well, you can't ride your bike, and we live off North Road, and you know how crazy Yarmouth Road, all the roads are so busy, so crazy. You really take your life into your hands when you're on your bike or you're walking your dog. So our hope is that that will pass this. We didn't get it over the finish line the last session. Instead of the mountain trail happened, which was great over in the Lakes area and the Wyndham area. Again, I think that we are very committed to making sure there's open space and there are places where trails and people can be out enjoying our beautiful state.
Thank you, Representative Graham. We really appreciate your time and give us, some insight on what's happening at the state, so.
I'll just leave you, anytime you need, you know where I am, and you know how to reach me. I think one of the biggest things I do is connect people when they need something. MDOT is a good piece. Anytime that there's an issue, please let me know, and I'll try to help find answers for you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Thanks.
again. All right.
Thank you. If I continue with my report. Also included in the packet was the Economic Development Director job description, which is a position that's requires council confirmation. We just wanted to make the council aware of that job description. That job has been posted. And then also included are all the department reports that we received included in the packet. And then I have a few more slides that I'll go through real quick. I wanted to introduce in person, I told you about him last time, our town engineer / project manager, Mike Thomas. He's here in the audience, and I'm going to give him an opportunity to come up and introduce himself to the council and the public, and just tell us a brief few things about himself. And he is part of his work. One of the main things he's going to be diving right into the village transformation project, working to try to help us lead that in a positive direction, as well as some other things that have been priorities of the council for a while. So, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Just want to say thank you for the opportunity to allow me to formally introduce myself this evening. So, as stated, my name is Mike Thomas. I'm the new town engineer and project manager for the town of Gray. Prior to this, I was in the capital projects group within Bath Iron Works, overseeing their capital project portfolio within the main yard and their satellite properties. And prior to that, I was a lieutenant in the U.S. Coast Guard. I did 5 years active duty, and prior to that, I graduated the academy with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. But I'm very excited to be on board. There's quite a bit coming down the pipeline for the town. As Mike mentioned, we have the VTP. I know that's a forthcoming project that's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of coordination, but excited for what the town has envisioned, and I'm hoping to carry that forward into execution so we can see it come to life. And other than that, I'm aware that we have quite a bit of other infrastructure challenges and projects in the queue, particularly as mentioned previously with roadways. Happy to be here, excited to get down to the weeds and start, as I said, carry these projects forward. And I would just like to say, please do not hesitate to use me as a resource. So at any time you have questions, concerns regarding any projects or any infrastructure issues with the town, my door is always open, whether that's a phone call, email, come by in person. I'm here to, serve the community in that capacity. So looking to help in any ways I can. So. Not sure if the council has any questions or comments.
Anyone have any questions for Mike?
Actually, I don't know if it's for you or for Mike. How do we track the projects? Is there a place that the public can go to and see what projects that we're looking at, what the prioritization is, kind of what's being done with them? Is there a way for the public to see any of that information?
Mike's working on that.
So to answer your question, so currently I'm revitalizing our town's backlog. So with that, I'm going through various archive data. So the big one that I'm going through right now is the condition assessment that was completed in 2021. We have a plethora of other pass downs I've received from some of our partners at Gore Hill Palmer. Who previously have done engineering or acted as a town engineer, and then in addition to several of the folks working here in the town. So my idea right now is to collectively, again, utilizing all the historical files we have, all the data we have, compile that into a active backlog. From that, I do have some history in terms of developing a prioritization matrix. Ideally, you want to, prioritize your projects that deal directly with safety, public safety. And again, we'll have some interpretation from the council in terms of what metrics we want to use to prioritize projects. So I'll be putting forth at least a draft list, some draft prioritization criteria, and then most likely it's sometime in the near future present that, and we'll go from there.
Will that also give us an idea of, we know the rankings are here, you put in, cost, timeline, all that stuff. So once we prioritize all those, will that also give us an idea of how long these projects, because some are gonna be years out and some can be done really quickly. Is that gonna be built in there as well, at sort of a timeline of?
Yep, we can put tentative durations and costs, absolutely. And that's typically in my prior, both within the Coast Guard and at Bath Iron Works, that's typically what we did is, and I'll use the Coast Guard as a more specific example. We are allotted an annual budget with, so a bit of background, the unit that I served at prior to leaving the service is a civil engineering unit. So regionally, they serve all, in my case, it was the New England region. So located out of Providence, Rhode Island, they oversaw all construction projects within the New England area. So if it was on Coast Guard property, our unit was overseeing it. But from that, again, kept an active backlog with tentative construction costs, and annually or at whatever periodicity is determined, we constantly review that. If, for example, we have a bridge structure that's deteriorating faster than anticipated, and that project to repair or replace that bridge was 5 years out, and the inspection team huddles together and says, realistically, this needs to be prioritized, within the next 2 years. We can, move that, see in terms of, again, with cost implications and schedule duration implications, we can see how that impacts the rest of the backlog, so.
Yeah, I think, Michael, you've touched on a major reason why we felt the need for for Mike to be hired into this position, and we can certainly get into the weeds in future workshop or something, but.
It'll be definitely more discussed during budget time as well,
Right.
as we begin to lay out our capital improvement plans for the future.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that'll definitely help us with budgets,
Yeah.
knowing that 5 years out, we need to do this and we need to fix that. And my last question is when it comes to some of these projects, especially around the towns, you've got town roads versus state versus federal. Do you have any experience working in that kind of a environment? Because I know, that's, as Ann mentioned earlier, that's one of the biggest complaints people have, right? Especially down here at the center where I've seen multiple people go the wrong way, because of the way of that design. I know exactly, what I'm talking about, and I've seen motorcycles almost get hit. And I don't know who owns that, but, do you have experience working with state and federal, all mixed in?
So even though the Coast Guard is a federal entity, we are still required to abide by all county and local environmental regulations. So there was an extreme, basically permitting process or environmental review process, and it was not just through, again, the federal level. We would go through county and state. And at Bath Iron Works, particularly with the local level, the rule of thumb is anything outside the main yard, we're consulting the city of Bath. So one project in particular was something simple as expanding and repaving a parking lot just located outside the main gate. We actually went through multiple iterations with the Bath Planning Board to make sure we converted that parking lot to some landscaping space, so contributed to the aesthetics of the community. So yes, I do have background in terms of working with outside entities, and I'm well aware, again, with the road infrastructure projects we have for the town, it's going to take a lot of coordination and collaboration with DOT. I'm still getting some of the historical data with past meetings and design efforts we've had with them, so I'm hoping from here, again, it's more of a collaborative effort, so, reduce the amount of headbutting and, make it more efficient to get those projects through the door into execution. And
Yeah, well, it sounds like you certainly have expertise to be here, and we're happy to have you. I just have one question for you. Where are you sitting if people need to come visit with you or have questions?
Currently, I'm on the second floor.
Okay.
You can just take the elevator, that's the easiest
Yeah.
way to come up. And if preferably if we can schedule something for you, give me a phone call or email just so I know to be here, not go on a site visit, taking
Right.
photos of different roadways.
Right.
But yeah, I'm on the second floor, and of course, if you catch me anywhere in the building, feel free to, grab me, start asking questions, start a conversation. So
Great. Well, it sounds like you're ready to get the ground running, so that's great.
We're
Welcome.
we're very excited to have them.
Yes.
Thank you, Mike, for staying, and nobody will be offended if you want to head home.
Yeah.
And so, I think my screen's not
Thank you all.
showing.
Thanks, Mike.
Have a good night. Hold on, bear with me. Window. Okay. So, just wanted to let everyone know, we've been working with our friends, oh, it seems to go away. We've been working with our friends at the school district, MSAD 15, on a couple of matters. Most recently, we worked with them for the school budget validation recount that took place on Monday and ended with no change in the result from Election Day. And I just want to thank our town clerk, Britt Barton, who did an outstanding job to organize that recount with the support of our colleagues from New Gloucester. We were able to have that organized, and our legal counsel from the school district assisted with that as well, to be able to do that in a very efficient and timely manner, and we were able to get back to the business of the town. So that was completed yesterday, and the school department, who technically, as this regional school board oversaw the recount, they shared those results on their website. And then lastly, we've been in discussions with MSAD 15 regarding a proposed school bond referendum. We're very hopeful, and we think they may have come to an agreement with us. They had hoped to have a September bond referendum, kind of an off-cycle election, and we think they're going to consider moving it to November, when we already have an election. So again, the work of our town clerk, Britt Barton, along with myself to support her, we were able to advocate for the significant impact that an additional election would have, as we're in the midst of preparing for a presidential election. So they would be really overlapping election cycles. So we thank the school administration and school board leadership for hearing us out and willing to work with us, and we're excited to help them get that referendum going in November. They do have some presentations that you can find on their website. I think one of them is tomorrow, where they are presenting about that school referendum. Did want to mention the open positions we still have here at the town. We have continue to have open positions at the transfer station, as well as in our public safety with firefighter and EMTs. And then I mentioned the economic development job description that was included in the packet. That position is posted. And our friends in Yarmouth just recently hired someone last month, and they said they had a lot of good applicants. So we're hoping that we can piggyback off their pool of good applicants for that position, and hopefully bring somebody qualified here to help us grow the business community here in Gray, which we know is desperately needed to help to spread the tax burden out for our residential property taxpayers. And then I just want to remind everyone about the Wild Blueberry Festival. This is the 8th annual event that'll be taking place between now and our next meeting. It's on Saturday, August 10th. It'll be from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Looking forward to attending my first one and hoping others can join us as well. And then did want to remind or let everybody know a couple other general updates. The Great New Gloucester Community Connector position, which is a position developed through the governor's cabinet on aging, and that's not a town position. It's handled through the university, but that's posted on our Facebook and on our website that they're looking for an individual to help our aging community members in both Gray and New Gloucester get connected to resources. And so this is a grant position, and we're excited to be able to support that and have them help members of our community. Also, since our last meeting, we held our staff training day, which resulted in facilities being closed for the day. We're going to look to maybe see if we can reevaluate how we do that in the years ahead, because we know it is a challenge for residents to have town facilities closed. We'll see if we can maybe shorten that time, if not eliminate it altogether, so we'll work to do that. And then wanted to mention that our Deputy Town Clerk, Judy Rand, received the Heart of Hospice Award, and I think Kyle's going to show the video that we shared on our social media for that presentation. There's some heartfelt words we thought it'd be nice for everyone to hear.
We wanted to come by today and thank you. And I have just a little something for you and present you an award after. So we're here to present you the Heart of Hospice Award, which we recognize individuals in the community who help us really kind of go with Heart of Hospice, so just taking care of. So today, we're here to recognize you, Judy Grand, and award you the Heart of Hospice. In March of this year, Judy helped Ashley and I in a race against the clock to get a marriage license to fulfill Dan's last wish, to marry his love. Judy answered her panicked calls late on a Thursday afternoon. Might have been about 4:55 I called to determine what we needed to get this marriage license. And again on Friday, 30 minutes before closing, she helped us get the certificate. Ashley and I left the town hall only minutes before closing. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being so patient with us. With marriage license in hand, Dan and Ashley were married that night by Steve. And he was able to spend his last few days as a husband to Ashley. As hospice providers, we understand that how we live out the rest of our lives matter. In the words of John M. Dempsey III, the sad truth is that we are born to bury the ones we love, but we must cherish the memories made to get us through. So thank you, Judy, for helping us, as we were able to fulfill Dan's last wish. And you left Ashley and the whole family with memories of happiness. So thank you for having a Heart of Hospice and showing this community that you're here to help. Thank you. So thank you.
So just wanted to show everyone an example of employees who go above and beyond every day to, help residents of the community, and thank you to Judy for that. She definitely does that every day, as well as many of our public employees, so we wanted to share that with everyone. And just wanted to also remind for the department reports, if anyone does have any questions about those, feel free to direct those to me or ask them during a meeting, and we'd be happy to, if you have a question, I'm sure others have that same question, and be happy to share the answer. And if we don't know the answer today, I'd be happy to get back to everybody. And that's all I had for town manager's report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just so on that note, did anyone have any questions for Mike about the department reports that were in the packet?
No, but I had one comment. I think it's awesome what Judy did, and I applaud her for what she did, but we do know with the expanded hours, that would never have happened. They came in at 4:55 on a Thursday, and that gentleman would have passed away before we would have been able to do it. So I know we like these expanded hours, but I do think we need to look at them. This would have never happened with today's hours.
Thanks, Michael. Did you have a thought, Ann?
No.
Okay, so next up, I just want a point of information on this new format for the agenda. So we've moved up council kind of correspondence and communications to higher up in the agenda, because a lot of times things come up and when we're reviewing those that might be of interest to the public who's in the room here. So in this section, if you could just touch on your committee reports and any relevant information related to those. And then we will return back to any additional correspondence that you would like to mention later on in the agenda. So under council communications is now the report from the council chair, and since I am serving as vice chair, I don't have one this evening. Chair McGuire is excused for this evening, and I'm sure he'll have an update for us in August. So I will move on to committee reports, and I'll begin with Matthew.
Since our last meeting, the Dry Mills Committee met, and they have new, Kyle produced a video for them based on a visit of a classroom to the Dry Mill Schoolhouse, and I'm very excited about that. And there was not a quorum at the meeting, unfortunately, so they weren't able to take any action. But that was my only committee that I've been to since our last meeting.
Okay, great. Yeah, I know a lot of committees are, it's the summer, people are on vacation and such, so. Michael?
I have not gone to a committee yet.
Okay. Ann?
Yeah, I just came back from a 3-week vacation, and Open Space met while I was gone. None of the other committees did, but I don't have the copy of their minutes, so I'll share it at the next meeting.
Okay. Yep, the Ordinance Advisory Committee has met once since our last meeting, and we continue to hash out the new land use map from the comprehensive plan and how that will look as part of our new zoning. And I'm sure we will have some forthcoming updates for the council to look at, an updated map at a future meeting. Ordinance Advisory Committee is meeting again this Thursday at 4:30. The Blueberry Festival Committee has met a couple times. Unfortunately, I missed the one at the end of June, wasn't able to attend that, but I was in attendance at the July 9th meeting. They're finalizing a lot of activities and logistics for the festival that's happening on August 10th. We're looking at a brochure. A nice addition to the brochure this year is actually a map where people, because formerly there were, events and activities listed in a text format, but there was no corresponding map. So that will be in the brochure this year. And I just want to put a call out for counselors. I think Lacey sent around an email. We're in need of greeter volunteers this year. And so if anyone is available, you can reach out to Lacey to put some manpower for the greeters. I do plan to be there. I was potentially going on vacation that day, but I will be available. The Blueberry Festival is meeting again, committee is meeting again on July 30th. And then we will have some volunteer training the first week of August leading up to the festival. And then GPCOG Executive Committee is on break until September. So that's all I have for committee reports. Okay, so I just want to, we're going to move on to public comments of non-agenda items. I just want to mention for people in the room and online that we are making a point of adding public comment to any action items on the agenda going forward. So we'll have a 3-minute public comment period under each action item. So this part of the agenda is solely for anything not on the agenda. So I would welcome anyone to come up who'd like to address the council on any non-agenda items. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, and they are not for discussion, just comments. So is there anyone in the room who'd like to make a comment on non-agenda items? No, and I'm not seeing anyone online.
There's no one online now.
Okay, so I will close public comment of non-agenda items at 7:48 p.m. And so we can move on to what we're now titling old business, so things that we have seen at least once already. And we're returning to either second reading or final reading for those. And up next is the amendment to the land use ordinance 402.7.9 for accessory dwelling units. So I'm looking for a motion for the Gray Town Council of the Town of Gray to eliminate the owner occupancy requirement and increase the maximum square footage for accessory dwelling units as attached.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second, sorry.
I'll give it to Ann.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Mike, I saw your hand up. Did you have?
No, no.
Okay. Okay, did anyone have any comments or questions on these changes? This is a second and final reading. And also, well, should we do the public hearing
Yep, so,
first?
well, if
Yeah.
you took no council comments, then you could open it up. Is there
Okay.
any public
Right,
comment on that?
Okay, that's, just trying to remember the order we decided on. So if anyone is here to comment on accessory dwelling unit changes, I'm opening the public hearing at 7:49 PM. Anyone? Nope, no one online? Okay, so I will close the public hearing at 7:49 PM. And is there any further comments from council?
No.
No?
I guess I would just like to say that I reread all the material and I internalized what everyone said at the last meeting, and so I think I'm going to be changing my vote.
Okay, you're welcome to do that. Okay, I will go to vote. Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
And I'm also yes. That might be the most expedient we've ever made changes to the land use ordinance. Okay, so I will move on to new business. Can you tell me what page packet, or packet page that next reading, thing is on? I know we have like,
So it's resolved 24-25-6 appointing Jesse, is it Reich or Reach?
Reich, maybe?
Reich to the Recreation Committee.
Okay.
And that's packet page 107.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Brett.
Brett.
I know there were like a lot of things about ADUs in there.
Yeah. Oh, it's 107, yeah, it's this page, yeah.
Okay, so these are resolves, so I'm looking for a resolve, as Mike Foley said, on 2425-6 to appoint Jesse Reich as a regular member of the Recreation Committee with a term expiring on August 31st, 2021.
So moved?
Do I have a- Okay.
And it's August 31st, 2027.
2020, sorry, did I say 2021?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, 2027, where that came from. Okay, any comments?
Looks like a terrific candidate, and I'm very excited that he has offered to volunteer.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to also say, thank them for elaborating so thoroughly on all the questions. That was very helpful, so, and welcome. Okay. I will go to vote. Matthew?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
I'm also yes. Okay, and next up, I'm looking for a motion to appoint Kirsten Scarpati as a regular member of the Library Board of Trustees with a term expiring on August 31st, 2027.
So moved?
Second?
Okay. I just want to thank Kirsten for continuing to volunteer. She's been a member of the Library Board of Trustees, as she mentioned in her application, for, I think, 8 years, and they're a very effective committee, and I'm sure she's a part of that, so thank you for volunteering, or continuing to volunteer. Anyone else? Comments?
Yeah, really appreciate her ongoing involvement. It's nice to have some veterans
Yeah.
on these committees.
And we do have a phenomenal library. I mean, we use it all the time.
Yeah,
It's-
same.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go to vote. Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
Also, yes. Okay, moving on to orders. Well, we are going to be looking at an auditing service. So I'm looking for a motion for the Graytown Council to authorize the town manager to sign an auditing services agreement for the town of Gray with Royer Advisors and Accountants of Falmouth, Maine, for a period of 3 years in accordance with the maximum costs outlined below and further described in the attached exhibits. And I'll just outline the costs here. There's 3 fiscal year audits noted. 2023 would be at a cost of $32,000. Fiscal year 2024 would be $33,500, and fiscal year 2025 would be $35,000.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. One sec. Okay, so I did want to open it up for public comment, but before
May I introduce the item?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Just wanted to introduce this item. As the council knows, we've been working on this since my arrival and wanted to provide some history in addition to the numbers that have already been presented. The town of Gray is required to conduct financial audits in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, and as well as the main uniform accounting and auditing practices for community agencies, and as well as our charter requires it as well. Since the appointment of a new town manager of Gray in January and a new finance director in July, we have reviewed the town's budget and prior audits. There have been some challenges in recent years with the town's budget and financial management. With the town council, we have reviewed this further in the process of preparing a budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Considering the town's prior challenges and the change in management, we felt it was prudent to conduct a thorough review of the town's finances. To ensure that this review is as independent and objective as possible, we have recommended we move in a different direction for auditing and accounting services. Therefore, in April, it was decided not to proceed with the town's previous auditor, RHR Smith and Company, CPAs, which was previously authorized as the sole bidder for fiscal year 23 through 25 audits. Given our size and complicated financial situation, it has been very difficult to find a replacement firm that would conduct our audits. Some of the larger firms we inquired with recommended Ron L. Beaulieu and Company, as they typically worked with more difficult audit clients. We also had been recommended to consider Royer Advisors and Accountants who had inquired about our business. As it turned out, we were far along in our discussions with the other firm that we let them know we would consider them in the future. In May, we received a proposal from Ron L. Beaulieu and Company to help us get our finances in order and conduct our fiscal year 23 audit for a cost not to exceed $100,000. This was approved by the town council at its meeting on May 7th, though met with controversy about other dealings of the firm from residents in the community. As previously shared with the town council, the firm felt that its reputation had been harmed by those community members, and given the political climate in the community, they decided they did not want to provide services to the town. In the meantime, the town has engaged with CPA Mark Roy of Blue Star Accounting and Advising of Lewiston, Maine, to help us get our finances in order and hopefully make us a better audit client. Mark came highly recommended from our current banking partner, Androscoggin Savings Bank. Throughout the spring and early summer, Mark has been working with finance staff to get our fiscal year 23 books ready to be audited, and will be working with us to finalize fiscal year 24, as well as help train our new finance staff. This ultimately will help us get back on an appropriate audit schedule, hopefully in time for fiscal year 25. With this work happening now and into the future, we reached out again to Royer Advisors and Accountants, who began to look at our financial situation and reviewed the work Mark had been doing with us to get our fiscal house in order and the work planned. The total cost of these services thus far has been $16,366, which is a significant savings from our last audit proposal. This work helped to make us a more desirable audit client, and we ultimately received the attached proposal from Royer Advisors and Accountants. This proposal is much more favorable than our previous proposal, given the work we have done to better prepare. Given the complicated auditing market and the financial condition of the town, along with the qualified experience of the firm, we highly recommend proceeding with the attached proposal and work to develop a longer-term relationship with this experienced firm. We thank you for your consideration, and we feel this will help to move the town forward in a more positive manner financially. And I'd be happy to take any questions about the proposal if anyone has.
Yeah, let's have comment from counselors, and one round of comment, then we'll do public comment, and then if we have follow-up questions from counselors or comments, we'll do that, and then we'll go to vote. So, does any counselors have any questions or comments?
Mike, I just want to thank you. This was a lot of work, finding somebody new. As you and I discussed, I know a lot of people in this industry, and I made a lot of phone calls, and it's hard to find somebody. You know, I think we dodged a bullet. You know, luckily, for whatever reason, somebody was looking out for us, because the cost savings is significant. And the reputation of the person, I don't want to get into, but they have a much better reputation. I've done some research, I've made some phone calls. I know you put a lot of work into this, and I'm glad whoever it was that, you know, whatever reason, we're here now. I think the cost for 3 years is what it would have been for 1 year. So I think we're lucky, and I think, you know, we're lucky to have these guys, and I appreciate the effort that you guys put forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just reiterate that. I know you and Justine and other staff members have been really working to put everything in order, especially since you've been here, and I think that's reflected in this work. It's been reflected in the way the budget was presented this year, and I do think we'll be in a much better situation going forward with our finances and how those are presented to the public, so.
Thank you.
Oh, Ann?
Yeah, I also wanted to recognize Mike and the staff and Justine in the work that they did to you know, sort of get things pulled together and get them in better order so that we could attract a qualified accounting firm with this kind of reputation. I was really pleased with their proposal. I liked their coaching approach. They're a smaller firm, and they really, they specialize in small to mid-sized towns, and are really interested in helping staff learn how to, you know, do the financial business of the town better. And so I think that's just going to pay off, you know, real dividends going forward. So, nice work.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, this is, since I've been on the council, which is not that long, but this has been this sort of intractable problem, and I thank Christine, but also Mike. I think you just have this attitude of going at things, you know, and solving them, and you know, and it's much appreciated.
Thank you. Yeah, and you guys have all mentioned Justine. She's been a tremendous partner in this.
Excuse me.
And that's all right. And we're, as part of the budget, as everyone knows, we're eagerly getting additional financial staff support, which will help us to put us in a really good place so we can maintain order of the finances for the years to come. And I think it's a wise investment, and appreciate the council supporting that in the budget.
Okay, so with that, I will open it up for public comment on this question in front of us regarding the allowing the town manager to sign an auditing services agreement with Royer Advisors and Accountants of Falmouth, Maine. So I just want to remind anyone who is making a comment to please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Is anyone here to speak to the auditing firm? No? Okay. Anyone online? Nope.
Don't see him.
Don't see him. Okay, so I will close public comment on order 2425-3 at 8:02 PM. Any final thoughts from counselors? No? Okay, so I will go to vote. Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Okay, and so I will move on to, in order that will be requiring 2 readings and public hearings. This is the first. Order 2425-4, an amendment to the medical cannabis section of the zoning ordinance 402.8.7. And I'm looking for a motion. if I
So
can get
moved.
to-
Second?
Thanks. I was going to read the thing, but.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
It's just galloping along.
No,
here.
no, that's fine. I'll go back and read it. I was just, there's a lot of information in our
Page
packet.
127.
Thanks. 127. Okay, so Ann made a motion, Matthew seconded, and I'll just read the motion. The town council is assembled to allow a caregiver retail stores as a conditional permitted use in the business development -1 and -2 commercial and village center zoning districts. So initial comments from counselors? Or Mike?
Thank you. I just wanted to share, this item did receive a public hearing at the planning board. The planning board did receive some feedback from the community, from a community member concerned about making this amendment, and then did hear from 2 business owners who were in favor and support of this amendment. Again, this was an item that the council had in their priority list upon my arrival, that members of the community have been waiting a while for this to be addressed, and so we were able to do this in an efficient manner in consultation with legal. Since we had the existing ordinance in place, we just simply added the caregiver retail stores, and those caregiver retail stores are governed by this ordinance and governed by the state laws that govern those stores to be established. And so if the council wishes to move this forward, we'd be looking to have second and final reading at our next meeting, which is the 3rd Tuesday in August. The date escapes me at the moment.
August 20th.
August 20th, and that will be approved then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to see this change being made. I think it's a reflection of the way business is already being done in town. And then I know that we had conversations about potentially looking into further expanding cannabis opportunities in town. But this ordinance does not do that. This basically is a reflection of the ability for medical caregivers to have a retail store in our town. So, which is currently legally allowed as a state statute. So I'm comfortable with this change. Did anyone have any comments?
Yes. So I'm for having these stores. What I am against is locations, okay? When I read this, I'm looking at Village Center zoning district, and I don't think it's appropriate that we have these in the downtown area. I know this isn't a grow facility, but I'm definitely against the grow facility in the downtown area. I think we need to think about where we want these, and I think about we need to know how many we want to have as well. I do think we need to limit them. I don't want to be driving down the road and see 10 of these. I think we need to strongly consider that. I don't have any problem with the 2 that want to come in here. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think we need to change our verbiage. I think we need to limit how many we can have and where we can have them. That's my biggest concern.
Okay, fair enough. Anne?
Yeah, just a quick background on this. I had brought this forward, I think, last fall after hearing from a couple of community members who were interested in starting these stores. And I did a little research, and I discovered that when the town of Gray, or Gray voters voted on the recreational cannabis ordinance statewide, a majority of voters had approved that, had said, yes, we want the state to allow recreational cannabis. And so that, for me, was an indicator that there was large support in the town of Gray for some type of cannabis. Again, as Krista mentioned, this is not a recreational ordinance. We haven't gone that far yet. But I think this is the right thing to do. There's no other business where we say there can only be 3 of them or something like that town-wide. I don't think we should get in the business of dictating that. That's what markets are for, and I think ultimately, it might take a little bit, but the market will shake out how many of these stores there are. So I'm definitely in support of these changes. I think it's a sensible and expeditious change, a way of amending the ordinance, and I think we should go forward with it.
Did you have a comment, Matthew? I was going to comment, but I'll wait if you...
I agree with what Councilor Gass said. I'm looking at the ordinance on, I guess, page 132, packet page 132, and there's this quiet enjoyment provision, which talks about not adversely affecting residences or properties, and it mentions odors. And so I think, I think enforcement of that particular aspect of this ordinance is important. But I would like to see some or sense some, smell some progress on that at some point.
Or not smell.
Yes. So that's my only comment, other than I support the changes.
Okay. As I stated a minute ago, I support this change in particular. Looking forward, I think we're going to need to strike a balance between what Ann is saying about not restricting numbers, because we don't do that with other business, and what Michael's identified about there's a certain place that these belong, and I don't want to see 20 of them in town either, like some of the other communities who've allowed more generous development of these facilities. But I think, we are going to, as we look at this going forward, we're going to need to strike a balance between those two things, and in particular, where these are located, I think will be an important aspect of that. Yeah.
Thank you. If I just may add, so the ordinance as structured, was already for our existing cannabis businesses, and the ability for them to locate in certain parts of the town is extremely limited by the current ordinance. And the caregiver retail stores will be subject to that same limitation. So for instance, if you look on packet page 129, it says that they shall not be within 500 feet of any lot located in the following districts, and it lists a bunch of districts. And so those are some of the districts, I think, that in the past, before I arrived, and probably when you guys first took up this ordinance a number of years ago, that people were concerned about some of those stores being there. Some of the existing cannabis businesses may have been constructed or in place before the town had the ordinance in place that regulates those. As far as odor is concerned, we know there's some concerns from some cannabis businesses, and code enforcement is working through those and working on a remedy. But the ability for these to be located within town is very limited between these site distances, between the distance of daycare facilities, a home, a church, all those different things. There's site distances in place that the windows to locate these types of businesses are very limited. And our legal counsel did advise against having a restriction on the amount of them, because it is really difficult to enforce, and you have to have a robust licensing ordinance and licensing procedure, which isn't something the town really does for any other business. And so given that we're pretty far along in the cannabis industry, at least from a medical perspective, that really, the free market system will manage who survives and who doesn't. And so we know that if businesses are going to locate here, they need to be certain they have the customer base to support their business, and they need to have the competitive product to be able to support their business. And so that will dictate who survives. And so we don't think there's going to be a flood of cannabis businesses opening here in Gray because of this ordinance change. We have some existing proprietors who want to be able to serve their clients in a different way, and we think that this will help to grow this business in a small but responsible way here in the community.
But what you said is contradictory to what this says, because this on the one page says the Village Center zoning district, and this one over here says it's excluded.
Well,
Those are two different.
those are two
zones.
different zones. So Village Center proper is really
Okay.
like right here.
Okay.
Like, so there's not going to be one like right here in this
Okay.
area. The Village Center zoning district is an ancillary zone and around. I don't have the zoning map
Okay.
handy, but it's more further away from the core of the village.
Okay, so Village Center proper, I just want to make, and I apologize.
No, that's all right.
Is that Village Center proper? What I want to exclude is that I don't want anything else going in downtown here. I just don't want.
It's
you know
not
what I mean?
allowed.
That's not what I'm looking for.
Right.
It's not allowed,
I talked to Ann about this. I don't have a problem with these going in. I just, I will have a problem with how many, and I'm afraid to vote yes on this if you're saying that we can't limit, because then I have a problem.
We can't, we don't have an ordinance for that, and that's not as part of the
Can't
proposal.
limit the number. But
We can't limit the number. of-
location.
We can limit the locations, and that's, like I said, it's an extremely limited by the proposed ordinance. And that's this is our existing cannabis ordinance for
Okay.
cannabis businesses.
Right.
We just simply added the caregiver retail store.
Which
as
is
an allowable
different
option.
than recreational, which is, I think, what you're probably more concerned about.
But yeah, I mean, you're not gonna put in 100, because not everyone has a license, you know what I mean? So I just wanna make sure before I decide, is that if we vote on this, will this be different from recreational, or are we just gonna say, okay, it's gotta follow the same exact thing, and we can have 200 of those, and.
Recreational is not allowed, it's prohibited in the town,
Right now,
right now.
right
And
now.
And this vote will
this
not
won't,
change that.
that's-
This vote will not
This vote
change
will
it.
not change, okay.
This is only to allow caregiver retail. So for instance, we essentially have caregiver retail exists in the town already, but it's by appointment only. Someone all the caregiver retail stores in town have a sign on their door that says by appointment only. All this is simply going to allow is those businesses that exist and any new that want to start to allow a retail store that somebody can come and go as they please, as long as you have a medical cannabis card. You can show up at any time that's convenient for you during that business's hours and go in and purchase your product and leave. Where right now it's regulated to be by appointment only. So it's kind of happening, as I think the chair alluded to early on. Some of this is kind of happening in the community, and we want to make sure it's being done appropriately. And I think some of our cannabis business owners in the community have been frustrated because they've been wanting to do it appropriately, and when some businesses may have not been, we don't know, neither here nor there on that, but we're trying to make an appropriate way for essentially the medical cannabis retail operation to take place here in the community, as it's been something that's been desired by members of the community, and it's been on the priority for the council for quite a while.
And my only last question is that we vote for this and we find out there are, 20 that come to us. Can we go back and change this, or is?
We can change the ordinance at
Yeah.
any time, but I think it's highly unlikely
Okay.
that will take place.
Yeah, it's within our authority to revisit this and amend it however we see.
The reason I'm concerned is that we keep bringing up the grandfather place down at the center, and it sounds like people are saying, well, we can't stop that. Well, I don't want to be in that situation. That's all.
We'll never be able to stop businesses that open, but if we decide we want to install a licensing ordinance and we want to limit to only 5 licenses or whatever, that's something that we could do down the road. In Wyndham, they had a limit, and when the cannabis business first started, they then shrunk the limit, and businesses would leave through attrition. So if one left, then they wouldn't issue a new license, and so they dealt with that. But again, we've been advised by legal that this is the cleanest way to handle this, and based on what they are seeing in other communities that they work with, they're not seeing a huge growth in this business. In fact, if you read about the cannabis industry, it's kind of right-sizing in Maine. It's the businesses that are providing a good product are sticking around, and the businesses that are struggling are kind of going under. And so those businesses are naturally going through the evolution of the free market system.
Yeah, there's no money in it anymore, once you make it legal.
Once the tobacco fields start growing it, then maybe it'll change.
Yeah, exactly. No, all right, I just, you know where I'm going with this. I'm just really concerned. That
We'll
can-
monitor it.
Yeah, and, if that's what it is, then that's different. And I've gotten a lot of complaints about downtown. And, I'm concerned about the look of the town.
Yeah, we're certainly on the same page there. Yeah, Matthew?
I guess I'd just like to make, one last comment on, this is another example of what I was saying earlier about the audit. We were sort of, had paralysis on this, and I feel like, Mike, you just came in and solved it, so.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so if there's no other comments from counselors at the moment, I would like to open it up for public comment on this item. Does anyone in the audience have a public comment? If you could just introduce yourself and state your address, please.
Hi, Brandon Pollard, Mail Road in Gray. First, I want to start by thanking you for addressing this. I know that you're all probably excited to stop seeing me come to all the meetings. I'll still come to a few, the ones that pertain to my life. I'd also like to kind of extend my phone number privately. If you've got any concerns or questions, I've kind of educated myself on this over the last few years as it pertains to ordinances, municipalities, all of that, because I'm one of the people that wants to open a store. So with that said, if anyone watched the last meeting for the zones.
The planning board.
The planning board meeting on which this was. It was kind of quite a back and forth discussion. The planning board was not super educated on it because of its swift movement through the process. And so I think we all were able to get some answers, including some of the public, when it comes to how some of these towns wind up with so many stores, one after the next, after the next, after the next. And that's because it's opened up to that recreational 21 plus and dispensaries, which dispensaries have multiple stores and unlimited grows. But this caregiver designation is a small caregiver with limited grow capacity, and since we're opening it up to only caregivers, you won't have two caregivers on one street. Say everyone is only allowed in one little zone, you've got those two caregivers, then you've got a couple dispensaries, and then you've got a couple of 21 plus, and all of a sudden you've got 6 all in a row. And I don't particularly love that look either. Where I'm in the business, I feel that the free market should pan itself out, and so I'm kind of more on that in that wagon. But I'd like to speak with any of you if you've got any concerns about how this change may affect. Another thing to consider is the buffer zones between, say, schools, churches, municipality buildings, municipality zones. It really does limit the area. And then, of course, the commercial availability within those areas tends to get shrunk down too. So I wasn't going to say anything really today, but for the most part, I just want to thank you all for moving this forward, and I'm happy. Thank you.
Thanks for your
Thanks,
patience.
Mr. Pollard.
Yep.
Anyone else? No, I don't see anyone online. Okay, so I will close the public comment on Order 2425-4 on medical cannabis changes for the zoning ordinance 402.8.7. And just a reminder for counselors and anyone watching, Mike referenced this earlier, this is just the first reading and public hearing for this zoning change. It requires a second and final reading, which is scheduled for our next meeting on August 20th, which if we vote in the affirmative at that meeting, then those changes will occur after 30 days after that vote. Any other comments from counselors? Okay, so I will go to vote. Ann?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. Okay.
And I'll just mention before you go on, the next item on the agenda, I think we put inadvertently, because we wanted to rope that into council
Okay.
communications.
So, when I mentioned it earlier, okay,
Apologize
that
we
makes
had
more
that
sense.
there.
Okay, so
Yeah.
next time we will move that up to the section on council communications.
Makes sense.
But if anyone does have any correspondence or activities they'd like to report out on, now would be the time. So I'll start with you, Ann.
Yeah, I haven't, again, I said I was away for several weeks, but I did get an email from a resident who had some comments about the new town manager's performance. That's about it.
Okay. Michael? Do you have any?
So I do have a question. I didn't
Sure.
get an email, but I got a phone call. Am I supposed to?
Yep, that
Okay.
would fall under, a type of
Okay,
correspondence.
yeah, I had the same phone call.
Okay.
Me too. I had 2 emails, on what I consider a personnel matter, which couldn't be discussed.
Right. Okay, yes, so I also had some emails regarding a personnel issue. And then I also had an email from the Forest Lake Association Board of Trustees extending an invitation, I'm assuming all of us got this, but for their annual meeting on July 20th, 2024, which is this Saturday at 8 a.m. at the West Cumberland United Methodist, I was assuming, Church Hall in Cumberland. Unfortunately, I have family in town. I'm not able to make that, so I didn't know if any other counselors were planning to attend, or?
I won't be able to make it either.
I won't be able to myself.
Okay,
Sorry.
so we'll send an email letting them know. Unfortunately, we're all preoccupied. It's
Summer
hard, it's a hard,
meeting.
it's hard
Yeah.
time in the summer to attend these sorts of things, but. Okay. All right, so I will move on.
We did
to-
add a second
to-
public
right.
comment
So
period.
so we want to, we've heard feedback from people that, people want to be involved in these meetings more, and so we're trying to incorporate that into these agendas. And so we've added a second public comment period. If anyone is here and has listened to what we've talked about this evening and feels they would like to make a public comment, you're welcome to come up at this time to do that. Anyone? Nope, okay.
There's nobody online.
Nobody online, all right. So I will close that at 8:24 PM. And then the next section, Mike, I don't know if you'd
Yeah, you
like
want me to
talk about.
explain
Yeah,
this?
if you'd like to talk about
Yeah, so
referrals.
the council's had like a priority list of council priorities that really hasn't been published anywhere recently. And so what we want to develop is a process where we have a counselor's ability to make a referral to the council to consider for the future. And so we're going to develop a referral form, which a counselor can submit, and then explain the issue and explain why they want to take it up. And then the council will vote to send that referral essentially to the referral list to essentially be taken up at a future meeting or a future workshop. And so that way, and then the current at every meeting on the agenda as current referrals, so we can either ask for an update on current referrals, or it keeps it front and center for the council to know what we have kind of on our plate for the council to deal with. And so we'll be looking to add more detail to those sections of the agenda in the future. So if there is an individual item that a council would like to take up, so say for instance, just as an example of tonight, if someone wanted to take up recreational cannabis, then somebody could make that referral, and if they make that referral and the council agrees, they would vote, to agree to refer that to the referral list, or they could vote to reject it. So then that way, people would know kind of where the council stands on certain issues. And so if there's an individual council that wants something and not everyone agrees, it kind of prevents taking up the council's time to talk about issues of one person. And that would be done during this portion of the agenda. Of every meeting. So hopefully that makes sense. We'll work to evolve in that. And one of the things, we will schedule a future workshop to look at the current council priorities again, and which ones do we want to keep on and be added to this referrals, and kind of refine them. And then we'll make a central place on our website where people can see the referral form and see what kind of the status of those are. But those are all kind of a work in progress.
Right, and I just want to add to that, so in the past, these priorities or things, items people would like to discuss at a workshop were emailed to the chair, and then you just needed a second counselor to say, hey, that sounds like a good idea, and it was sort of informally tracked as a workshop item, and then we had our very large, extensive workbook, which we then transitioned into Teams for tracking all these priorities, and it's just become very unruly. And so, as Mike said, we're going to have another workshop where we go through what's currently on there, and then this will be a process for adding items to those priority lists going forward. And so, Dan and I did meet. I should have mentioned this during my activities, but Dan and I did meet with Mike earlier this month to talk about the flow of this agenda and what that will look like going forward. So this is the process we've come up with. But again, if people, as we go through it and we're using it, if people feel like we could change some things, we're open to that also.
And did I hear, I just want to make sure I understood this clearly, is that if someone has an issue, if one of the public has an issue, they can go on and they can create a referral as well? Or is it just we can do it?
Yeah, so if a
Okay.
constituent comes to you with a
Yep.
concern, example, they want recreational cannabis.
Yep.
You could fill out the form, explain, oh, I've heard from a constituent
Okay.
who would like this ability to have that business in town, and you'd make the referral, and if the council would vote either yay or nay to put that on our priority or on our referral list, for then the council to discuss down the road. And it helps to eliminate some items that not everybody might agree on, and as we change councils, there might be councils that want things that councilors didn't want, and vice versa, and the list will kind of ebb and flow. But ideally, it'd be my goal to work with everyone to try to address council referrals as efficiently as possible, so that, you know, if someone makes a referral and we kind of get the gist of what it is, maybe we have a workshop to get an idea, and then I go back and work with staff to develop either an ordinance or a policy or procedure that we would then bring back to the council at an upcoming meeting.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because it's, again, I don't know enough, and I do get a lot of phone calls, surprisingly enough. And, you know, a lot of times, maybe you got emails because I said that they should email everybody, not just me, you know what I mean? So I want to know the right way to bring stuff forward, because, I mean, everyone has a right to.
And this is a new way, so
Yeah.
you're learning at the same time.
Awesome.
Right,
No,
yeah.
I like the idea. I think it's great because it'll allow me to, even if I don't necessarily agree with it, I can still bring it forward because someone's asked me to.
Yeah.
And that's what I need to do.
Right, and we're hoping, as Mike mentioned, we're going to expand on what referrals we have that are pending or current, and they'll be listed here in this document, so that it will be more transparent for people who are following the agendas.
It won't just languish unseen.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will move, we don't have any thing to, oh, did you, go ahead,
Well, just
Matthew?
before we close, I wanted to bring it up during committees, but I didn't. But I would just mention that we are having a contra dance at New Begin Hall on September 3rd. Beginner lesson at 7, dancing 7:30 to 10:30.
On September 3rd or August?
August 3rd, excuse me.
August.
Oh,
What did I
okay,
say?
you said September,
No,
it's fine.
August 3rd.
Are
The one after
those-
that will be September 7th.
Oh, okay, so are they're recurring, they're going to be monthly?
They're going to be monthly
Okay.
from now till the end of the year.
Mhm.
First Saturday, 7 PM beginner lesson, dancing 7:30 to 10:30.
Okay, that's great.
Can we all vote that it's mandatory that Mike goes?
Yeah,
Which might.
which Mike, yeah, right? Which one?
Mr. Foley, let me be very clear, Foley.
Yeah.
I'm not a dancer.
I'll be there.
Okay, thanks, Matthew. No, that's great that you're kind of spearheading that. That's great. So I'm going to move on because we don't have any referrals here to discuss. But I want to note, we've also taken the opportunity here to just list our upcoming meetings for folks. So and I'm sure you know, our next meeting is August 20th. It's our one meeting in August, just like July. But we will be having a workshop beginning at 5:30 that evening to talk about council rules, I believe, is that?
Council
what-
rules and
Yeah,
committees.
Council rules and committees. And then our following meetings in September are on the 3rd of September and the 17th. And then the executive session here noted as, I believe, just a placeholder for if we will be having an executive session at some point in the future. And just noting that we're going to be having them, as we've done the last couple of times, at the end of the meeting rather than at the beginning. And but we don't have an executive session.
No, so ideally, there would be a bullet point underneath that with the title of the executive session and the reason for it.
Okay.
So that's just a placeholder on the meeting for that.
So if it just appears on the agenda like it appears here, we don't actually.
We don't
an
have
executive
one,
session.
yeah.
There'll be a bullet point underneath stating the reason and the legal reason and who to include.
Okay. All right, so if no one has anything else, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn at
So moved.
8:32 PM.
Seconded.
Okay. And I will go to vote, or we don't need to vote one by one on this, right? Is that what we've decided?
You can declare the
Okay.
meeting closed.
All right, so if there's no objections, the meeting has concluded at 8:32 PM.
Nice,
Thank you, everyone.
thanks.